You finish breast cancer treatment and your feed is full of Ozempic and Mounjaro. Celebrities, headlines, miracle weight loss, it's amazing. But if you're recovering from breast cancer treatment, are they actually safe for you to take? Do they work? I used to think that the menopause from breast cancer didn't make women put on weight. There was no reason why it should. I used to tell women they were being silly when they were worried about weight gain on tamoxifen. And then I got put on tamoxifen myself and I gained 10% of my body weight and I'm slim. But I still went up 1 or 2 dress sizes and it took me a year to get it off. I had to exercise more and eat better, so I get how hard it is. So many of my patients and so many of you will be struggling because nothing fits you anymore. And even though you're exercising and eating well, you just can't shift the weight. It can feel hopeless, and on top of everything you've been through, it's just not fair. So I'm Dr. Liz O'Riordan. I'm a breast cancer surgeon who's had breast cancer, and I can't tell you whether you should take them or not. That's a decision for you to make, ideally with your medical team. But what I can do is walk you through the evidence, what we know so far about whether they're safe and whether they work, to help you make the right decision for your health. And the first question that everyone asks is, do they actually work after breast cancer treatment? And the answer seems to be yes. You want results, you don't want another false promise. This shouldn't be about numbers on a scale. It should be about taking back control after everything you've been through. There have been a couple of trials that have looked at women who've been taking these drugs like Ozempic when they have breast cancer, but there was predominantly for diabetes. And they're small trials, they only included a couple of 100 people, but the women did lose weight on these drugs. However, the amount of weight they lost wasn't as much as people who didn't have breast cancer. On the whole, people who don't have breast cancer treatment will lose 15 to 20% of their body weight in a year, which is huge. The studies showed that women who were having breast cancer treatment for ER-positive breast cancers, when you have the additional hormone blockers of tamoxifen, anastrozole and letrozole, didn't lose as much weight. And on average, they only lost 5% of their body weight. There isn't any data for triple-negative or HER2-positive breast cancers, presumably because they're not in an additional menopause thanks to the hormone blockers. Now, we don't know why this happens. That was an observational trial. There are lots of reasons. It could be because you have even less estrogen than a postmenopausal women, and something about how that interacts with your metabolism may be slowing the weight loss down. But they do work, but you may need to wait. It may take you twice as long to lose the weight as it does your neighbor or your mum. But here's the kicker, and we know this for anybody. When you stop the drugs, the weight can come back and fast. So it's really important that you also up the amount of exercise you're doing, which can reduce your risk of recurrence by 40%, and try to eat a healthy diet like the World Cancer Research Fund recommends. But you need to think about these drugs as the long game. You may need to be on them for life, and you may need to afford to buy them for life if you're not getting them through your GP or your oncologist. And it's not your fault. It's not your fault the weight comes back, it's just biology. There is nothing we can do about it at the moment. But what if the very thing that's giving you hope, that magic injection of Ozempic, is actually giving you cause for concern? Are they actually safe to use after breast cancer? Do they increase the risk of recurrence? Now, you might not have considered this, but with any new drug, we need to see whether they are safe for you to take. And with breast cancer, particularly ER-positive breast cancer, that means, do they increase the risk of recurrence 10, 20, 30 years in the future? Now, although the drugs have been around for a while, those trials are mainly looking at people with diabetes. We don't have 10, 20-year data on women with breast cancer and men with breast cancer who've taken them. So the jury is out. If I'm being honest, the data doesn't exist yet, although there are trials looking into this, and I'll be talking about them in a bit. We do know, however, that Ozempic doesn't increase the risk of breast cancer in healthy people. So yes, these drugs probably are safe and they can help you lose weight. And we know that people who weigh more than a healthy weight for their size do have an increased risk of recurrence. Again, obesity causes chronic inflammation and insulin resistance. It drives inflammatory markers, and we know that can stimulate cancer to grow. So these drugs may help you, but they do have side effects, just like any drug that you take. The main effects are those that affect your gut, like nausea and vomiting and constipation. And if the drugs you're taking, like tamoxifen, the CDK inhibitors, are giving you that, you may find you have to deal with a double dose of those side effects, and that's not fun. An important thing to note is that if you are premenopausal and you are taking the pill, they can stop the pill working. Because what these weight loss drugs do is they make everything go through your system much more quickly. So if a tablet has a very short half-life, like the pill, it's not in your body for very long, then it doesn't work as effectively. So you need to make sure you use a barrier method of contraception as well. And if you're taking any other drugs, you need to know how they're impacted by Ozempic, Mounjaro, Zepbound, because if they're going through the system quickly like the pill, they might not work as well. But you don't need to worry about breast cancer treatments like Tamoxifen, the AIs and CDK inhibitors, because they have a long half-life. They stay in your body for a long time. So as far as we know to date, touch wood, Ozempic, Mounjaro, etc., they don't stop your breast cancer treatment working. So that's good to know. And if you're finding this video useful, let me know in the comments. But as interest grows in these drugs, so do the scams. Everyone wants a bit of the cherry. There's so much money being spent on these. So how do you know where to get them? How do you know if the drug you're getting actually is the drug you want? Scam pens, contaminated powders, and the wrong doses are everywhere. They are all over the internet on the black market. And you need to be really, really careful who you get them from, because this is your health we are talking about. Please don't risk buying them from dodgy websites, Telegram sellers, and people DMing you on Instagram. The UK and the US have issued counterfeit alerts for several fake doses of these drugs, so please do your research before you buy them. The drugs should be strictly monitored to protect your health, so if someone is just selling you them with no follow-up, walk a mile away. Please don't do it. If you do want to try them, go through your doctor first, your GP, your breast cancer team. They may prescribe them for you to help you lose the weight, and they can monitor you and look after you accordingly. If you want to go online, you need to buy them from a registered website, and the drugs should be licensed from a known pharmacy. Anyone prescribing these drugs should check your medical history, including family history of thyroid cancer. They should check what other drugs you're taking and make sure they don't interact. They should ask for a photograph to prove that you are overweight, or insist on telling your GP so someone knows what you're doing. If a seller doesn't ask for either of those things, again, back away, because it's just not safe and you might not be getting the drug you want. But let's get back to those trials that I talked about, because this is potentially really, really exciting. The TRIM EBC trial is testing tirzepatide, or Zepbound. This trial wants to know if weight loss using Zepbound in women with ER-positive breast cancers and a high risk of recurrence can lower the amount of circulating tumor DNA in the blood. So let me break that down. After breast cancer, we assume there may be cells floating around the body, but they're not doing anything, they're not growing, they haven't found a friend, the body's going to kill them at some point, but we don't really know what it means. And what they're doing is they're measuring the levels of this circulating tumor DNA in women with a high risk of recurrence and estrogen-sensitive breast cancers. And then they're giving them the tirzepatide, or the Zepbound, and they're monitoring their weight loss, and they're seeing if the levels of cancer DNA in their blood drop as their weight drops. They chose women with ER-positive breast cancers because we know, as I said, and I now know, women with hormonal cancers are more likely to put on weight thanks to the extra menopause they get from the hormone blockers. Now, this trial is based in America, so if you do live in the States, it may be worth contacting your team to see if you can be recruited into it. We don't have the results yet. But this could be a marker to help us measure recurrence. It could also be proof that the drugs like Ozempic and Mounjaro and Zepbound are useful for women who have put on weight who need to lose it, again, to further reduce the risk of recurrence. And that's really exciting to know in the future. Plus, there's potentially help available to help us shift the weight. This could actually change how we predict and prevent the recurrence of breast cancer in the future. But right now, we're still in the dark. They are probably safe to take and they should work. And I've had women on my Instagram feed today just telling me that they are losing weight on them, and it's been revolutionary. And I think this could be a huge thing to help women who are suffering, because we don't tell you how to lose the weight as a doctor. We don't tell you what to do. It's like, go away, it's not going to happen, just eat healthily. But it's not as simple as that. So I can't recommend these drugs. I'm not your doctor. I think you should have a discussion with your team if you can, to see if they're right for you. These are my 5 top tips if you are considering trying the weight loss drugs. Number 1, we don't yet know whether they're safe for women who've had breast cancer in the long term. It doesn't mean that you don't need to take them, but you do need to be aware of what might change in the future. Number 2, they do work, but they don't work as well. So it's not an instant miracle cure. It may take you several years to lose the extra weight that you've gained since breast cancer treatment. Number 3, if you stop the weight loss drugs, the weight will come straight back on again. So if you're going to start them and you're not getting them from your GP, you need to know that you can afford to pay for them for life, because that weight will come back on. It's just biology and it's not fair, I know. Number 4, these drugs need to be supervised by a doctor or a licensed pharmacist. Do not buy them from a dodgy site on the internet. This is your health. You only have one body. And finally, number 5, lifestyle still matters. Despite how much you weigh, we know that regular exercise can reduce your risk of cancer recurrence by 40%. That's huge. Exercise should be 3 times a week of aerobic sessions where you get hot and sweaty and, sorry, having a hot flash at the moment, and 2 strength-based sessions. And you can do that at home doing lunges and squats. You don't need to be in a gym. That is really, really important. And you should be eating a healthy diet. Check out the World Cancer Research Fund. There is no magic miracle diet or supplement. It's half a plate of fruit and veg and a decent protein source. And if you carry on with this, it should increase the amount of weight that you lose. Only you can decide if those drugs are worth trying. They may help you lose weight, but strength and energy and longevity, that's what lifestyle can give you, and that's what you deserve. The goal isn't to be smaller. It should be about getting stronger, not skinnier, and healthier, not weaker. We want to keep you alive for as long as possible with the best quality of life we can give you. And if you want to know more about the side effects of tamoxifen and why they do lead to weight gain, check out this video. I'm Dr. Liz O'Riordan. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe so you don't miss my next video.